What subjects inspire you to create their message?
I think anything that's like moving and anything that I find moving and powerful, and that could be sort of any medium of art, whether that's music or photography or painting or anything like that. I often find that when I'm like specifically taking still photographs of landscapes or like outdoors, I'm sort of incredibly humbled by this like just incredible grace that nature has created, and then I'm equally like in a way sort of distraught because it's the reality of the situation is that these like natural places aren't necessarily going to be around forever. So I think whether it's like photography or documentary filmmaking, I think being able to preserve and give light and like a spotlight and attention to stories and places and beautiful things that deserve to be preserved.
What other forms of journalism have you had experience with?
I have minimal experience in print journalism. I've made my own magazine just for fun and just for an artistic outlet. I've also worked for a few different music publications for as a concert photographer and to interview and create show write-ups for local bands and bands that are touring and everything. As far as that, I have no other.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to stop. What is your interview and research experience? You talked about interviewing musicians for the magazine. Any other individuals that you've interviewed?
I mean, other than like high school newspaper and yearbook staff, no, that's my only interview experience. But I was doing that since I was about 16 years old when I was still in high school. So it was sort of a way for me to like really throw myself out of my comfort zone because I'm a very naturally introverted person. So like I really just got thrown into it and dove off the deep end, and it was a really good learning experience. And over the years I've gotten much more comfortable having conversations with people I don't know and approaching and creating this space to have like a nice and open and like meaningful conversation.
Okay. What camera equipment do you use?
Right now I don't have any video camera equipment, but I have several DSLR cameras, and then I have a Canon 7D Mark I body with several lenses and such. I have tripods, lighting, stuff like that. I have let's see. I have a Canon AE1 35mm film camera, a Mamiya RB67 medium format film camera, several lenses for both of those as well. Couple reflectors and diffusers and such. I don't have a lot of like specific studio equipment, so to speak, because I'm not much for a studio. So.
Okay. What software do you use for editing?
As far as stills, I use Adobe Lightroom, either usually on a desktop, but if I want a quick edit, I can do it on my phone. And then for other things, I just pretty much the whole Adobe family. So Premiere, Lightroom, Photoshop. InDesign is pretty good, and then for audio, there's Audition. I've used that a handful of times.
How far would you go to tell a story?
That's a very good question. I don't know if I can answer that directly, but I have a very strong sense of intuition. Just I have a very strong gut, if you could call it that. And I think if I felt that I needed to go further and I needed to keep pushing, then I would know that story is really worth the effort and really worth the time to invest.
So if it was about global warming, for example,
Mm.
and would you rappel off a cliff to get some shots of?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I do that anyway.
Oh, okay. Would you let me ask you some questions about writing, because you write as well?
Mhm.
So, where do you choose to write?
Usually I try to get some stuff done at home. I'm very ADD, so it's not always the best place, but if I need an escape and I need something quiet where I can be by myself, I usually go to like either a beach and sit there, just set up with either like a book or my computer and get things going, just because that way once I'm in the zone I'm not taken out of the zone, because I'm alone and normally in like a calm environment. So
Okay.
yeah.
What do you like to write about? I think I know some of the subjects you like to write about. Are there any others besides
As
the
far as
environment and?
yeah, so I'm very passionate about like environmentalism and activism and such, but I also don't necessarily like to completely put myself in a box. Like that's not the only thing I would necessarily write. I just try to keep my mind open. I'm very moved by a lot of like narrative films nowadays. There's and just very unique forms of writing, like as far as Fleabag on yeah, it's very excellent. It's incredible. And then
Very clever breaking of the fourth wall.
very, very, yes, and as well as High Fidelity with Zoe Kravitz.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet.
Excellent.
I just remember the original one with John Cusack.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I'm most intrigued by just the human experience itself, and I think anytime that a person can make up another human that moves me, it's truly exceptional, because that person isn't real.
Right.
That came from someone's brain, that came from someone's emotions, and they were able to craft another person's personality and their behavior and everything, and make it believable and sell it and make me feel emotionally invested in it. I think that's like the most spectacular thing you can do as a writer.
Yeah, absolutely, because I think it's a writer's duty, as I think it is an actor's duty, is to show the human condition.
Absolutely, yeah. Completely agree.
Do you ever think about sequels as one of the questions for writers? But I guess if you did something for, let's say, Nat Geo, with the subject matter, you probably would be able to envision sequels, would you not?
Yeah, I'm sure. I think that's a pretty open-ended question, because I think certain things benefit from sequels and certain things don't. Like, as far as sort of like narrative writing or for like feature films or short films or whatnot, some of them could definitely benefit like from sequels or another season or something. But a lot of the times, if like the artistic process has come full circle, it's like kind of more beautiful in a way to just let it be and not add onto it, because I feel like it's a fine line to, when you add on to something, you're changing it, and that can be for the better, but it can also water down the original content.
That's a very good point. Let's see. What is your first approach to writing a story? I mean, you mentioned being going to the beach or being somewhere isolated so you wouldn't be disturbed or distracted. Is there any other, when you start to write, is there a process for you?
As far as like actually the starting to write onto the page, or just like the
Like, do you start with an outline, or do you just,
usually I will
automatic writing, or?
When I have an idea, I will pull up a document or a notepad or something, whatever, and just write a ton of random, like, free thoughts that are associated in my mind.
Okay.
And then from there, I'll figure out what the story really is about, because it's kind of convoluted and, like, crazy, and sort of chip it away and figure out what direction I want the story to go in. So I have a ton of, my favorite thing is like a legal pad. You just scrawl notes on it, and from there you can kind of get the thing in motion.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.